Everybody take care. Have a nice evening. Well, I'd also like to thank you for allowing us into your homes for this 10th edition of Season 5 of Esoteric Science Roundtable. And I would like to begin by thanking Zach for allowing me to use the intro music from an original composition. And Zach will also be my guest next week, and we will be discussing some things about magic, and it should be interesting. Next Wednesday is our metaphysical philosophical meeting that we here at Esoteric Science Roundtable and Jeff Contreras from Therefore I Am co-host each and every third Wednesday of the month. And this upcoming 18th will be the third Wednesday, and so we'll be meeting starting around 8 o'clock, maybe a little after 8, and staying until people decide they want to leave, basically. And so it's a good opportunity for people that have an interest in discussing what they may have seen on our respective shows, or if they want to bring something to our attention that they may think that we may find of interest as well. Please, by all means, come down and interact with us. Excuse me. We normally find ourselves in the back area, and again, you stay until people are of the mind that they want to leave. So please consider coming to Spatter House. It's close to 29th and Guadalupe, and again, that's this next Wednesday, the 18th. I want to thank Darcy and Hilario for coming down to help me discuss a few interesting items this evening related to occult lore. And the reason excuse me, behind titling the show Occult Lore is because with things that are hidden or things that are mysterious, as the word occult means hidden, we often have much lore and many different ideas and things crop up relating to these esoteric or occult ideas. And so we want to kind of maybe delve into a bit of where some of these ideas and these conceptions and possibly in some cases some misconceptions may arise, and try to address that a little bit, if we may, from our experience and our understanding of these ideas. And so if I could begin by just asking that simple question, how do you think this occult lore does, how do these ideas get immersed in this lore and this mythos, and how do these things develop?
I think part of it is because the esoteric is hidden or unknown.
Right.
There's a fear base that runs underneath, and a lot of people kind of project stuff onto it in a negative way, and also, I guess, in a positive way.
Okay, well, I want to mention one thing. Certainly there are esoteric orders that have developed their own ideas or their own mythos, basically.
Yeah, history.
Right.
But yeah.
Based on a
suspect
lineage
history in some
right,
cases.
Right. And so, and certainly we do find that esoteric orders, or the people that start these orders, in some cases are the guilty parties for originating some of these ideas or concepts that become rumors or become, people just take them and run with them. And so there's certainly that aspect of it. But again, as you said earlier, things that are shrouded in mystery are orders in which people are initiated in, or somehow they're allowed under certain circumstances. In other words, not everyone's allowed to be a party to what's going on in the inner chamber, so to speak, or what have you. People might start to, again, as you say, develop a fear or a lot of uncertainty about some of these ideas.
That's correct. Also, the groups that develop a history, because they want to create a lineage, to give them authority so that they can actually meet. Like Freemasonry, their authority goes back to 1717, when it was a number of the lodges came together in England, and they founded the United Grand Lodge of England, and that gave them authority to meet. Other groups that are newly created don't have that kind of authority, so that's why they build a back history. And in a lot of cases it's false. A lot of times people take it back to the building of the pyramids.
Right, that's how you hear that often.
Yeah.
Well, certainly that does play in a lot. Hilario, would you care to add any comments about that?
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that even though it's occult lore, it seems that lately, all of these things have started to surface and become more mainstream.
Very good point.
And it's also good to have a way to find out what is something that's beneficial for you, something that's going to empower you and give your life some meaning and understanding, rather than some of the other lores that might mislead you into putting out lots of money or worshiping someone's ego. And that's something to be careful of.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and tap into what we were going to talk about a little bit earlier anyway, which is the show, or not the show, but I guess there is a movie and a book, The Secret.
Oh, yes.
That's become very mainstream, and it was even featured on Oprah. And so that may tie into what you were saying earlier about some of these esoteric ideas that have become, you can't get much more mainstream than Oprah, really.
Yes. And last year I was doing some production for Paranormal Society of Texas, and I was going to research some ghost show, but it turned out to be in the Alamo Draft House, and when all of us got there, it was about The Secret. And I heard about it last year, and then all of a sudden it started becoming mainstream and everyone got into it. And it's very interesting because what I found out is it explores the law of attraction, which is a very occult law that has been suppressed. But in actuality, there's been other works, much older works, that are similar or in the same vein, such as the Kabbalion, which is the Hermetic philosophy, and by the three initiates.
Also, there's a new edition of the Kabbalion. It's called Divine Magick by Doreen Virtue, and she modernizes the language.
And this one is the Divine Pymander of Hermes. That's the occult science of Hermes Trismegistus. And basically, The Secret is one of the principles, which is the principle of connectedness in this one. And I'm sure in the future they're going to start putting them out in installments, but it's basically the same thing that is in here.
But another way to look at it would be the law of attraction, or manifesting something. But in this case, it's attracting positive that you want. Like the esoteric has a lot of good ideas that you can use in your daily life to improve yourself and well as those around you.
Well, the idea of manifesting something, that could take on a lot of different connotations depending on how you interpret that word. So manifesting something, we could simply use our wish, our intent to ask if we want a different job, for instance.
Well, in the Secret DVD, Fred Alan Wolf, he's a quantum physicist, and he was saying, well, basically our bodies are made up of mostly tissue, made up of water, made up of hydrogen and oxygen, made up of atoms, molecules, atoms, and then after that it's leptons and all those other small ones, and everything's energy. And with the discovery of quantum mechanics, using that information, basically the mind somehow has to play into the energy. And with all of their experimentations, they found that the mind influences that energy. So if we're all energy and everything's energy, then by that same rule, whatever we think, the frequencies that we send out, that's what we attract back. So basically we're harmonizing ourselves with a thought, and that thought in parallel comes back to us.
Okay.
That's the main fundamental idea of the law of attraction.
But I also wanted to delve into, as far as ways to force a manifestation. Certainly there are rituals and there are things of that nature where we invoke or we call in an energy or an entity, if you will, in order to allow this process to be carried out. And so that was my point, that there are simple people that just, aspire and wish for and hope that something will come their way in the sense of the law of attraction. But then there are those that force the issue by using, again, some sort of established ritual, or maybe not so established, and they seek to, use their will in that sense.
Well, the secret deals more with, in a sense, asking, believing, and then receiving. But what you're talking about is something completely different. But if I do ritual or ceremony to bring something in, to manifest something, if it's not within the cards, it's not going to manifest. Like, for example, I want to be president. That's not going to manifest.
Not likely,
but it has to be kind of along, within the realm of getting.
Okay, because I think there's a definite interpretation by some that there are a lot of folks that do this, quite frequently, that they're invoking ritualistically, the most extreme situations, circumstances, or energies into their lives and wielding these forces. And so...
Well, they're the laws of nature.
Yes, they are ultimately the laws of nature.
Yeah, and they're kind of like, let's Hilario kind of maybe discuss those three principles of,
Well, basically, in The Secret, they talk about asking. You ask the universe for something. You focus on that. So basically, if you connect an electroencephalogram to your head, you're going to see that there's certain frequencies and patterns, and each one of those patterns is a thought. And basically, when we focus on something, we're sending the same thought out. The second part is believing, which you had mentioned earlier, and that is believing and focusing on having unwavering faith that will manifest. That's the second step of the law of attraction. The third step is receiving, being in the state and feeling good about yourself, feeling good about everything. For example, if I want something and I'm trying to feel good, but then I'm driving to work and then I'm going, I hope I'm not going to be late. I hope that I don't have an accident. I hope this and that. So that's going to attract those things, and basically it somehow balances out. And so basically keeping, according to the law of attraction, the more you concentrate and focus on the things that will be beneficial to you, you will attract them.
And all these other little sidetrack issues are going to sidetrack or
take away the frequency, the energy, the thought processes from the
and you won't have that pure connected channel with the idea or the object of your intent.
It's very difficult to do, but it's worked.
Okay. And so there are a lot of esoteric ideas, as we said, that are becoming more and more mainstream. And how do we give it that test, to determine or discern what we want to put our efforts and emphasis into? What do we want to lay our energies into when we hear about these new fads? Like so many things, diets and things of that nature crop up overnight, and everybody runs and tries it out for a little while, and you know what I mean? So how do we know, in an esoteric sense, how to use discernment?
Well, for me, I prefer to use the hidden knowledge for self-improvement and trying to improve those around me as much as possible. It could be something as simple as making someone laugh, changing their mood from something negative or something focused into something destructive, and by shifting them over to something a little bit more positive. It could be simple things. And that's one thing. But of course, the hidden knowledge sometimes is used by people who are trying to amass power and enslave people. For example, 96% of the 96% of the money in the U.S. is owned and harnessed by 1% of the population. And that in itself tells you that there's something that is going there by some design. And so basically it depends. The knowledge is there. It depends on how you use it.
Okay, so you think it boils down to intent then ultimately?
Yes.
But also this might be, people might get interested in this as a fad. But if it improves their life, I think it's will be a good thing. But it's not. Like I said earlier, they're laws of nature. They've been around, since the beginning of time, and that they work. And as long as you kind of work within set rules, things will begin to manifest in a positive way.
So people that blatantly disregard those laws are either going to put themselves in a world of hurt by potentially manifesting something not nice, or they're just going to not do anything potentially because...
Yes, I see it more latter.
Right, I think that's more likely as well.
But also, we manifest our thoughts.
Certainly, no question.
The universe manifests our thought. So, if you're always thinking about, bills, that's what you're going to start getting in the mail, right? Because you're manifesting that.
So start thinking, I'm going to get checks in the mail, big checks.
Well, that's an interesting point. As far as, the pervasiveness of this esoteric underlying of things. My interpretation or estimation is that, in ancient times, there were individuals that were able to ascertain spiritual knowledge. And I think we were able to obtain this knowledge through our senses in a way that's different than today. We're much more dense and much more materialistic, actually and metaphorically at all levels. But I think certainly that there was a point when our very makeup was more of the stuff of the spirit. And so by having that more in tune aspect of us still a part of our nature, that we were able to ascertain what plants were medicinal, the influences of the stars and things of that nature, and many other things that were, that we could derive from a study of nature, and we could understand these things. And so I feel that this information has been obviously passed down through many different fractured traditions, but that esoteric ideas do underlie pretty much everything in manifestation. But
they are laws, just like the laws of gravity, the law of thermodynamics. There are the occult sciences, the hidden sciences and arts. Those are also laws that work behind the scene.
So there have been people that have been able to apprehend these secrets from nature and use them?
Anthony Robbins teaches a lot of the esoteric ideas.
Oh, yes.
And he's the self-help coach guy? Yeah. That's true. You do hear, and again, that's getting back to the idea of hearing these ideas cloaked, these esoteric ideas cloaked in more common, symbolism or more modern examples. And even hearing in commercial ads, the word karma oftentimes crops up and things of that nature. So these things have become much more mainstream. But yes, you're right. These esoteric ideas have, in many ways, impregnated a lot of mainstream things, no question.
But the other thing, just kind of grab a thread of what you're saying earlier about the kind of, I see modern society being dumbed down quite a bit. Like if you look at books from the Victorian England,
no question,
from the 1800s,
or a newspaper for that matter.
A lot of people wouldn't be able to read those or understand them today.
There's no question about that. That's very true.
The other thing, mentioning media, is what they're doing is they're pumping a lot of negative media. This is burning down, people are crashing, people are getting killed. That's all you watch on TV, and therefore you take it in, and that's what you're thinking about the most, and you're sending that out. That fear, that hate. Oh, I'm afraid to go out. Someone might do this, and the hidden knowledge allows you to say, well, is this the only thing that's happening, or is this the only thing that the media wants me to see?
That's a great idea.
And if I focus on improving myself and sending out waves of feeling good, feeling happy as much as you can, then that's an approach for improving yourself.
Also, the war on drugs produce more drugs.
Certainly.
The war on terror produces more terrorists.
That's because people are focusing on those words: war, terror, war, drugs. For example, Mother Teresa, she was asked, why don't you join us in a protest against war? And she goes, no, but if you have a rally for peace, I will attend. So even she knew the law of attraction.
I'm sure she definitely knew the question. But so that being the case, then certainly then it stands to reason that there would be, definitely a good aspect of this underlying this, that esoteric ideas and just the ABCs of esoteric ideas can be given out to people in general for their betterment, for betterment of their lives.
Definitely.
And that as much as there may be some interpretation or impression that there are those that are hoarding these secrets, so-called, this esoteric information for their own benefit, I think there are many more individuals that seek to understand, I would put us in that camp, quite frankly, that we seek to understand these ideas so that we can share, exchange, spread information, help to enlighten, not frighten, and help to, encourage people to help themselves through looking at the inner nature of things, the inner nature of our own physical makeup, the inner nature of how, everything, all relationships, as you said earlier, all things being interconnected. There are ways we can look at this interconnectedness and the energetic underlying it to our benefit. If we all could sit and think those good thoughts, as you were saying earlier, or masses of people, as opposed to focusing in on the negatives that we are more often than not fed, imagine that ripple effect that could take place.
Yes, if we make the time, that's the question. The thing is that we're always worried, okay, we need our family, we need to go to work, we need to come back, we need to pay the bills, then just fix some food, watch some TV, go to bed. The next day, you go to work again. So the whole idea is finding time and, just focusing a little bit more, taking a little bit more time to improve ourselves, to harmonize ourselves with the more positive aspects of our psyche and be able to project those outwards. That is something that it has to develop from within, that you want those things for yourself and that you're willing to set up maybe like 10 minutes, 30 minutes a day, or for some people all day long, and use it as a meditation.
Also, those three rules of laws of attraction, the ask, believe, and receive, they're also contained in the Bible.
That's true.
She in the book there talks that those principles that are esoteric are revealed in the Bible.
No question. Yeah, I think there's a lot of great religious writings that we can draw a lot from.
Yes.
Even today. So.
And I have some of the quotes from The Secret. They're really quick. Can I just go through them real quick?
Yeah, please go ahead.
The first one is to write these down, and the first one says, "I'm so grateful and happy that blank," and you can fill it in yourself. List of things that I'm grateful for, because when you, what am I grateful for now? When you're in a state of gratitude, it shifts your energy into a more positive spectrum.
And receiving.
And receiving.
And receiving. Yeah.
The other one is, I'm getting healthier. I'm getting younger. Feel good. It's very simple, but just that affirmation, feel good. What I visualize, I materialize. Joy is the best measure of success. Money comes frequently and easily. Wealth is a state of mind. I love myself. I respect myself. I deserve to be happy. What I expect of others, I turn inward and expect of myself. There is enough good and abundance for everyone.
That's great.
Very positive, and every morning, every night, and start feeling.
There was a woman there, actually, I think she's still living, Louise Hay, that wrote a lot of self-help books that she would do these positive affirmations, and they really, again, seem pretty simple, but it's getting in the habit of doing these things. Just like with, I think, most esoteric things, at its core, they are simple, practices or simple ideas. It's just a matter of getting in the habit of ritualizing them, and again, the idea of ritual comes back into play. But the idea of using these things, it's just with anything that you seek to attempt, whether that's weightlifting or some sort of a diet, you have to be persistent with the exercise, or nothing's going to come out of it. So same with these simple concepts. You have to keep that positive attitude as a recurring state of mind, as opposed to just once in a while, do the I feel good, mantra kind of thing.
Well, you put time and energy into it.
Certainly.
Yes. I think it's important that we make time for things that are important to us. Even if we, like Hilario was saying, 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, to start manifesting positive within our life and the world.
Sure.
Things should be a lot better.
I tend to think so. So, in the big scheme of things, we talked about idea and intent and that energetic underlying and really the creating causative force in manifestation. So if that is the case, and we can see that there is that large body of energy with our thoughts and our emotions and our intent that build together, would it stand to reason then that just a handful of men could amass enough energy to, or power, or, you know what I mean, to monopolize all that energy? Does that seem to be the case currently of all the 6.5 billion people? Or do you think that ideas hold sway?
There's enough
Good and abundance.
good and abundance for everybody. And also Mahatma Gandhi said was, you know, there's room for us all. You know, but yeah, the energy is, you know, it's endless. You know, but you can't really hold on to it because then you have nothing.
Well, when you were talking about people who take energy also,
Right.
Basically, the law of attraction, the way I interpret it is that we use it to harmonize ourselves with those ideals to bring them closer to us. But of course, gathering energy, our own personal energy, when you start taking energy from someone or from taking away others' free will, that's when you start getting into the negative spectrum. You're trying to oppress. Now, as you were saying, there are other ceremonies and rituals. So if you don't want to take energy from a person, then you could take it from other planetary energies, star energies, dead stars. There's rituals for taking energy from nature, borrowing energy from the earth, all of those things, and being able to use it to manifest the things. And that's completely different from this just law of attraction, which is more of an internal process, whereas gathering information, gathering the energies from these other entities to empower yourself, it's different.
Right.
Yeah, the secret is changing our thought process so that it's more positive, and that we're not manifesting what we don't want. Like, for example, you know, if you want to be successful, one thing to start would probably be, you know, cleaning up your house, your room, or whatever, so that you're sending a positive image to your, you know, to your subconscious and your conscious.
Very interesting. Okay, so I wanted to, I was going to get back into some of the different magic systems and things of that nature a little bit. I do want to go ahead and address, well, the idea that, okay, so I think you guys would concede that there is reincarnation, as I do, and that we find ourselves coming back for, you know, more dipping back into the well for another experience. So.
Yeah, that's one theory. You
Okay.
know, I believe that theory.
Okay.
You know, but I don't have direct proof.
Okay.
You know, that, you know, reincarnation exists or happens, but I believe in it.
My interpretation is a little bit different. You know, I believe that we live in parallel dimensions, in infinite parallel dimensions. Right now, I'm existing in all these different infinite possibilities.
Okay, sure.
And when I take my life force from this reality, I'm just resizing it into all the other parallel dimensions. So I can come back to this one, but that's the way I perceive it. So it's a little bit different, but it's still reincarnation because you can bring back the energy back in here, the life force back into this one dimension that we're living in. But
right. Well, that ties more into more of a quantum idea of that, and that's, you know, I really pretty much entertain a similar philosophy as well. But as far as the manifesting this current one that we're dealing with right now, that we're pretty much agreeing upon right now, the evolution of that energy, you know, or your energy rather, through form. Let's just leave it at that then. Evolution through form. We find ways to evolve this energy through form, and we find ourselves putting our energy in the appropriate form to allow us to evolve. And so that being the case, there are ideas of relative perfection on the planet, and that there are those teachers behind the scenes that have reached this state of relative perfection, and that they can be we can help them, or we can tap into the workings and shakings that are going on with that they're working on, and we can assist them at some level, and we can gain their assistance at some level as well. So I wanted to get both of your takes on that, if I may, and that idea that there are those teachers behind the scenes helping things out, or that we can.
Are you talking what, masters?
Sure, whatever term you want to use. That's a
ascended
pretty
masters, avatars.
Yes, those terms.
Papaji, like in Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi.
Sure. Sure.
Well, I think part of the access would be through publication. You know, a lot of the masters would publish material, as well as they have you know, an inner group that they would teach. But in modern society, you don't really have access to that kind of stuff because, you know, everybody has to work for a living, and back then you had more leisure time, I guess, for a lot of people, because a lot of people that really got involved in that, the esoteric, were the artistic, the upper class, middle.
You're talking about the turn of the
Victorian.
Right, late 1800s.
The Victorian era, when 1800s, when Blavatsky, Theosophical Society, Golden Dawn, Rosicrucians, all that kind of stuff was going on.
I've not met an ascended master, but people always tell me where they exist. Some are in the Sichuan Mountains in China, and others are in the Himalayas, usually away from society and all their workings, perfecting themselves somewhere out there. So I guess they're still out there somewhere.
Okay, that's kind of what I wanted to get at as well. And I have similar beliefs or similar ideas that I've heard as well. And I don't interact with the masters on the regular either. I just want to state that for the record. But you have a lot of, I feel, misconceptions. There's the author Benjamin Creme, that when he's on a talk show, he'll start channeling a master, and it makes you wonder about that sort of thing. And I think it brings a lot of ridicule and discredit to that concept, because I do feel that this is an actual real occurrence, that we can as humanity perfect ourselves towards these goals, relatively speaking, on this planet. And that the workings towards that unfolding, I think, are often, like I said, ridiculed or misinterpreted at the very minimum, but that this is an actual state, this is an actual occurrence, and that we do, as like I said earlier, evolve through form to, work towards perfection at some state.
I think that through self-analysis, taking time to understand and know yourself, that you develop knowledge of these laws that exist, that bind us, connect us, create us, destroy us, and that there's so many different people that need this information, so it's packaged in different ways. Some people do need the channeling, some people need the ceremonies, some people need to go out into the nature, some people need to go in, everyone's different, so it's whatever they need, and that's why there's one set of laws, but packaged in different ways, and that's what I've realized through different studies.
So I'm a little skeptical about the so-called channeling of masters.
No,
because what comes to mind is B.T. Barnum that said that there's a sucker born every minute.
All right, yeah.
But it was Anton LaVey that later added, due to the population increase, it should be at least 6.
Good point. Okay, and then again, I think that people need to have a definite healthy sense of discernment when they think about some of these ideas. But they have, again, pervaded popular culture, quite a bit. Maybe, not that mainstream. But again, more or less, these ideas are not unknown. And so I think it is good to address them at some level and kind of consider some of these things.
I think the information is out there, but people are not ready to find it or hear it. So if they're in a situation where they're not ready, then it's going to go unnoticed.
I think that's the bulk of it actually as well, is that there is this esoteric information, although it is hidden, so-called, is not really all that hidden. There's a lot of stuff that's been published in exposés and things of that nature. So there's a lot out there that's published and readily available. It's just that the interest to really delve in and to really make a real, earnest study of this stuff, not everyone's going to have that. And so, yeah, it just goes, unnoticed for the most part. I would definitely agree with that.
And some people find so much that it's sometimes, distracting. There's too much. Where should I go?
That's a great point. There's a wealth of information.
With the information society nowadays.
True. And I think that also ties into people having the opportunity to test the waters with different organizations, and many people find their way along the path, so-called, and they would sample and like a spiritual buffet, and try a little bit of this and a little of that.
That's great, spiritual buffet.
And then they ultimately may decide on something that they feel they want to stick to for some time, and that will be their set path for perhaps part of that incarnation, perhaps even leading into another one in some cases. But I think that is definitely the case that. That's why so much information is out there that people do have ample opportunity to sample and see and seek and discover what's best for them, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, I think it's also important to have critical thought.
Sure.
Like with this information, whether it's through books, internet, radio, or other programs on access television.
Sure.
I think it's important to ask the pertinent questions.
Sure.
Assess the statements that they say.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Do you have some criteria that you care to elaborate upon there, or not really?
I already have been. Yes.
Oh, you have been? Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, are the people are they interested in finding new solutions?
Oh, definitely.
Do they define a set of clearly defined criteria of analyzing the ideas? Are they willing to analyze beliefs, assumptions, and opinions and weigh them against facts? Do they listen carefully to others and able to give feedback? Do they suspend judgment until all facts have been gathered and considered? Do they look for evidence to support assumption and beliefs? Are they able to adjust opinions when new facts are found? Do they look for proof? Do they examine problems closely? And are they able to reject information that is incorrect or irrelevant? Okay. But I find like on some of the Patriot radio programs,
yes,
that they tend not to reject information that's incorrect. There's cases where they'll say stuff that is, off the wall. There's so much misinformation given out that people have to assess that information critically.
So there's protocols for critical thought. This is just kind of standard stuff.
Well, this is from Sharon Ferret, Peak Performance.
Oh, okay.
She had listed a number of the criteria for critical thought or critical reading.
Okay. Well, I would say this on the one hand, and I am grateful on the one hand to all the information that's come out about esoteric ideas, negative or otherwise, because it has gotten people to think about these concepts that would not have otherwise been exposed to these ideas at all. Certainly there are going to be a large number of people that are going to take some derogatory statements about occultism wholesale, and they won't bother to check out critically past that point. And there are oftentimes as well, unfortunately, many cases in which all esoteric knowledge is lumped together in one fell swoop as all negative, and no real discernment seems to be put into play to pick apart and try to see and separate, the threads and see one from the next. Is there, is this all the same, or is there variation, and are there differences and differences of intent as well behind these ideas?
What I say is kind of look at where the information is coming from. Now, for example, on the Patriot Radio, the radio station that broadcasts the Patriot Radio is Genesis Communication Network, and Genesis actually is a reference to the first chapter of the Bible, and all their radio hosts are right-wing Christians, and also the RBN Live. They and so, but there's not much difference between them and the 700 Club, Pat Roberts, or Roberts, but what happens is the Patriot Radio, they look at politics and religion. And the 700 Club looks at religion and money. So,
but in the context of politics as well, because they have to know when the end times are going to come, and they have to know how to,
No, but it's more geared towards getting money, right? So, but the, like for example, the Constitution. The people on Patriot Radio, a lot of them they don't want a separation of church and state because they're Christian. They tend to be anti-choice. They don't like homosexuals or gays, and what happens is they don't want a separation of church and state. But the Freemasons that wrote the Constitution, they were a firm believer believing in the separation of church and state. That's why you have people on Patriot Radio that are attacking Freemasons, is because they don't want they want a separation of church and state. You know, but you know, I see that you know that they are, you know, trying to I think present some good information and a lot of misinformation. You know.
Okay. So again, getting back to discernment, we want to discern whatever information we take in.
Yes.
Okay, and I would argue with the whole thing of separation of, you know, there's definitely not a full, like as far as many of the original founding fathers were very spiritual in their writings and in their belief system, and so, you know, I think there's certainly that component that was very critical and very crucial with the founding of this country that we can't ignore. So as far as it being of a spiritual nature in origin, certainly I don't think we can argue that very successfully. But, okay, so I'll take those points into consideration. And like I said, I think ultimately any discussion of esotericism is good in my estimation because it's bringing it out into the light of day, you know, for people to chew on a little bit more. Whether they think it's, you know, they want to just automatically assume all bad, that's certainly their prerogative, or if they want to delve a little bit further. And I've seen that to be the case on occasion, that people will look a bit further, they'll read some books, and they'll want to discuss these ideas and things like that. So I always encourage people, and I'm always happy to speak to people that want to talk about this subject, certainly.
Right. There's also I saw in a documentary that where it talked that Blavatsky, when she had died, that Aleister Crowley had taken over.
The Illuminati, right?
I think it was Illuminati. Well, because Blavatsky was the head of the Theosophical Society. Right. So when she died, she was never involved in the Illuminati. So that's misinformation.
Let's touch base on that. Okay, so Blavatsky, being a woman, would she have been allowed into a fraternal esoteric order like Masonry? Would she have been involved in the Illuminati, which was a fraternal segment of Masonry?
No, she would not have been involved in Illuminati because it was for males only.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's under Bavarian
Bavarian or otherwise.
Yeah.
as long as it was specifically involved with Masonry, then that would not be the case.
So, but the
well, let me add this quickly then. So if Blavatsky dies in 1891 and Crowley's born in 1875, that makes Crowley 16 at the age of her death. Have you ever heard any accounts of Blavatsky meeting Crowley ever?
I think maybe later on, but
how later on though?
Oh, at 16? No, he didn't.
So she died in 1891. So that would, unless she.
Yeah, but she was the head of the Theosophical Society.
Of course, yeah.
When she died, Annie Besant and
Leibniz.
Yeah, they took over the Theosophical Society.
But right, as far as any alleged Illuminati ties, it wouldn't
Crowley
make sense.
didn't get involved in the esoteric was until 1898.
Okay, so he was much older then.
Yes.
Certainly, wasn't a teenager anymore. And that's certainly the case, that people, if they're under, a certain age, are not going to be asked to join any kind of order. I mean, that's
in Masonry, for example, you have to be of mature age. So
and
whatever
that's
that...
relevant.
Yeah, whatever that mature age is in a country. Like, so for example, the mature age would be, 18 or
in most
21.
cases, right.
But interestingly, was the Crowley never became a Mason.
Right.
He never became a Mason under Mailcraft, under the United Grand Lodge of England, because they rejected his membership.
Okay. So was he involved with any fringe Masonic organizations?
He actually joined a Masonic order in Mexico.
That's interesting.
But yes.
So he's part of the Mexican Illuminati.
Yes, I guess. But
that's where the Mexican Mafia is derived from, right?
I guess that could be a avenue.
Am I letting the cat out of the bag?
Someone may want to traverse.
Okay, we'll have to do some research on that one. That's interesting. Okay, so
actually, there was a gentleman that did. Martin Starr did a excellent article in the magazine, a Masonic historical magazine, called the Quattro Coronati Lodge, and he did one on Aleister Crowley in Masonry, where he talked about how the Masons prevented Crowley from getting involved or getting any of his like his order, the Ordo Templi Orientis, being recognized by any Masonic bodies.
That's interesting. So there's a little bit of adversarial blood brewing there at some level. Okay, so that's something that's definitely good for consideration as well in light of that discussion. All right, so symbolism and symbol sets. We find obviously much symbolism in esotericism. Is the symbolism used in esotericism universal, or do we find variations, within different sects and within different groups?
Yeah, definitely. Because, like any symbol, you can interpret it probably in about 7 different ways. But so you're going to have people that are going to, literally symbolic, all the different ways, and you have groups that kind of come together, maybe a literal interpretation or a mythical or interpretation.
Well, sometimes we're asked to meditate upon a symbol if we're involved with particular work.
Yes, yes.
And what would be the benefit of meditating upon a symbol? How does that symbol impregnate our consciousness? What's the mechanics behind that?
Go ahead.
Okay. I think that it's going to give you a deeper understanding of something that you may not have necessarily seen before, but also it's going to open doors. One way of you got a couple ways of meditating. One is where you have a lot of thought in your head, and by thought in your head, it keeps your conscious mind busy, and then you're able to have breakthrough. The other way is silencing your mind.
Well, also going back to the law of attraction and the mind affecting the world. If a group of people get together and find a symbol and they say, okay, this symbol is for this, and they focus on it, and then the next generation comes and they focus on it, and they pass it on, build it into the human unconscious, then that symbol, when someone goes and looks at it, there's so much thought energy put into it that it awakens the same effect of the intent of that symbol. And that ties back in with one of the laws of mentalism. That's another principle in Hermeticism, where the mind plays a large role in things. So you basically could take a symbol, and if you get enough people to project and intend that something will happen if this happens over a span of 100, 200 years, 300 years, eventually that symbol is going to awaken those same things because it's tied into so many people giving it that much power. And that's one of the things that we have to be careful about, that that we're giving symbols and people power, and to make sure that we take that power and use it to improve ourselves.
But also in the 40s, there was Dion Fortune and a number of members of the Golden Dawn that actually got together, and they were doing magical, attacks against Germany and the Nazis to try and stop them. Yeah. So that was kind of getting together as a group to manifest something positive.
Yeah, there's this one documentary that I saw, the occult history of the Third Reich, and boy, they did everything, with a symbol, the what they taught the people, what they were trying to do, everything everything was pre-planned, every fight was astrologically planned, and then of course you were saying something that they try to misinform them by putting in wrong information in the thing, or something.
Oh, that was the British.
Oh, the British. Okay.
The British were trying to do. They were doing psyops, and Alec Howe, the gentleman who wrote the Magicians of the Golden Dawn. What they did is they created this magazine called the Zayist, and they published it. They labeled it as, let's say, April, but they published it in June, so that and then they put a bunch of predictions in it, so that they knew what was going to happen.
It gave the illusion that they had already predicted the future.
Yeah. But what they did is they issued this as a special issue, limited edition. And it got in and scared some Germans, because they also put in there that that the Americans were going to win the war and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And basically, there was a war going on with weapons, and then there was a whole magical war going behind the scenes. And it would be interesting to explore and find out more about that, because it's pretty interesting that there are these type of battles going on, and struggles between light and darkness, or good and oppression and evil.
In the context of that, I would bring out as well, if you read the Alice Bailey books, especially Externalization of the Hierarchy, it brings a lot of information out about that whole trying to get the spiritually minded people of the world, get them a call to arms in essence, to get enough energy mustered so that the war may not have played out on the physical plane. They sought to avert it entirely from even blowing up in that sense. But allegedly the spiritual intent of the like-minded and, potent spiritual persons on the planet wasn't enough. It wasn't, the mass energy wasn't appropriate or ample enough to stave off the conflict. But there was a definite seeking to do just that, in conjunction with these other efforts as well behind the scenes, to esoterically either, stave off or to fight fire with fire, in essence, with the Nazis. So very interesting stuff there. Do you guys want to grab a couple of calls? We have calls. Let's try them out, shall we?
Let's go.
See what's going on. Okay. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Hello, Kory.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for
Oh,
that.
we're waiting for you, guy.
Wouldn't have been a show without that. Hello, caller, you on the air?
Hello?
Hey, go ahead.
Okay, bye.
Bye? Okay. That was brief. Just to call to say bye. Okay, so, well, let's go ahead and chat a bit. That wasn't so successful. Did you want to go ahead and read this small quote if you'd like, if you don't mind?
Well, it's an interpretation of symbolism.
Okay. And this is relating specifically to Freemasonic symbolism, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so please read this. I think this
Freemasonry
is very applicable.
is said to be a particular symbol of morality, veiled in allegory, and illustrated by symbols. Symbolism is used throughout the ritual to teach Masonic philosophy and moral lessons. When used properly, it makes an effective means of instruction, but it can be abused. There are many who become quite carried away in their attempts to attach a symbolic meaning to anything Masonic, and others who would posit an esoteric meaning to every part of the ritual. Masonic ritual has evolved over many years and was to be found in very crude and simple form in the late 17th and 18th centuries.
Okay, so in other words, simply stated, to, think that there's going to be an esoteric or Freemasonic symbol or a meaning behind every symbol set or behind every action, that's not accurate as well.
That's correct.
Okay.
Masonry is basically taking a boy and turning him into a man, and using the symbols of a mason, an operative mason, using them to teach morals and ethics. For example, the 24-inch ruler would represent the 24 hours in a day.
Okay.
And dividing the days up into equal time of work, sleep, and pleasure, like with family or personal stuff.
Okay.
Now but a lot of people project ideas and symbols onto on Masonry and what it teaches, and I think a lot of it is you got to think of where is it coming from, why are they putting this forward? Like a lot of times you got people that are writing books because of their religious background, and they're coming, and then they want to go on a tour to promote this. So so you have to kind of assess where it's coming from and who's presenting it, what credentials do they have.
It's like you said, it's certainly what's the intent behind bringing the information out. If you're going to slag something, or you're going to be derogatory towards something, why are they being so derogatory? Why are, again, that's a good question. Okay, so we will try another call quickly. Hello, caller, you're on the air?
Hello, I'm interested in the topic, but I need to know, I don't really understand it.
What question did you have?
Nothing, bye.
Okay, thanks for viewing nonetheless.
Tell them to come to the Spider House and maybe.
They sound like a younger viewer, actually, but thank you for viewing nonetheless. We always try to bring out hidden information, basically. All things that are hidden, we try to bring to light. Or maybe not all things, but some things that are hidden, we try to bring to light and discuss them a little bit. We find that interesting.
Well, I think what I wanted to focus on was kind of manifesting and putting forth positive thought, positive energy, and changing the mindset of individuals so that they're not focusing on the negative or the bad and manifesting that, but focusing more on the positive and manifesting the good. Because if you improve yourself, you improve society.
Right. And so that's true. If you do embrace the negative aspects of whatever, if that's your entire focus, if you're consumed by that, that can't be good.
And it's a choice also. It's a
Ooh,
choice.
Interesting. We have a choice to choose.
You have to choose.
Okay, so that's an interesting point. And a lot of people, I've found, unfortunately, want choices made for them.
Oh, yes.
In this day and age, people want things handed to them instantly, and they don't want to do a lot of thinking, unfortunately. As you said earlier, reading books that were written 100 years ago, or even a newspaper that was written as little as 50 years ago, it's written pretty much outside of the understanding of the man in the street these days, unfortunately. We've gotten, unfortunately, very lazy. I think in some respects the computer has made us somewhat lazy. And this is why esoteric knowledge is a knowledge of understanding the self, understanding the inner nature of ourselves. Man, know thyself, as the Greeks brought out, rightly so. And so this is how we can, through this inner understanding, we can help assist ourselves to help others. And it sounds, a little bit trite or a little bit silly on the surface unless, people are really going to make an effort to do this a little bit more often. Again, like you said earlier, the little bit of time we spend every day to try to embrace these ideas and make it a part of ourselves and to contemplate ourselves, and simple things like, what irritates me? Why do I think this way? Why does this make me happy? Why, what makes me tick, basically? Start to understand and unravel things about ourselves, and then we can go from there. We have very little time left, so please, any last comments you guys would care to make?
2 calls? Or?
We don't really have a lot of time to grab the call, so.
Oh, okay.
I think that, that we have to start making time for ourselves, that that's positive, and that's going to help make a change.
And you have to choose that's what you want in your life, whether to improve yourself or to go ahead and just be distracted by doing this and doing that, going out, going this, and spending some time choosing to spend some time to improve yourself in aspects of your own internal workings and spirituality.
But the other thing is that, I think people are asleep, and maybe some people, or I don't know, maybe nobody, but watching this, they might wake up a bit.
That's always my hope, is that we'll get at least one person, that will start to consider or reconsider these ideas in the context of some of what we discussed. So no doubt about it. We are going to have an interesting show next week. We're going to speak more about magic. This one won't be for the beginners, so bear with us on that one. Those of you that are going to stay tuned to this evening's broadcast of Therefore I Am, don't forget that is Channel 16, 10 p.m. Jeff's going to be continuing the Hollow Earth Part 2 this evening, so stay tuned for that one. That's going to be a doozy for sure. And again, thanks you guys for coming down. I do appreciate it.
I
want to thank my producer Chris for commanding the helm of the Starship Esoterica, and I would like to thank Donna for helping to navigate. Thanks, Austin. Appreciate you guys viewing. Tune in next week. We're here again, Channel 16, Thursday, 7 p.m. Thanks, Austin. Have a good evening. Take care. Bye.